which we produced. It's about gambling. And tonight we're going to discuss a little bit about gambling. Is it kosher? Is it not kosher? Are we allowed to? What is the Jewish stance on when it comes to gambling? You'll hear answers that you like, and you'll hear answers that you don't like. But that's what we need the guidance of the Torah for. And you know, they say a famous story. There was a rabbi and a priest, and you know, an imam, and they were all in the Bronx, and they're hiding away, playing cards, playing poker together, and playing for some big stakes. And then they get raided by the police. The police are coming in to raid. So quickly they hide everything, and policeman walks in and he says to the priest, he says, you know, it was actually a bishop Gardner, tell me something. You've been playing cards? So bishop quickly looks to the side, says, please forgive me, God, for I've sinned there. No, wasn't playing. Goes to the imam, he says, you've been playing cards? He said, do a little prayer. He says, no. Comes to the rabbi, he says, you've been playing cards? He says, with who? With who have I been playing? They haven't been playing, so obviously, who have I been playing with? The gambling question that we have tonight is as follows. You know, they estimate that gambling around the world is worth about $500 billion in 2015. It's become a very, very lucrative economy, if you want to call it that. Thousands of casinos, racing tracks, bingo halls, lotteries, sports, etc. And what I want to do is I want to take you through a journey tonight that we're going to visit the sources in the Gemara, in the Talmud. We're going to go through the sources. We're going to understand a little bit more where does it emanate from. And we're going to come to some understanding. But of course, as always, for any specific questions you need to ask a halachic authority before addressing specific questions. The aim of tonight is to open up the sugya that deals with gambling. So, according to the Torah, is gambling considered a vice or is it an entertainment? Does the Torah view a professional gambler as a Jew in good standing? Somebody who says, okay, this is my profession, this is what I do, is that good? Is that a good guy, a good person, or not? Does the halacha permit using slot machines, playing poker for money, betting on sports or buying lottery tickets? Is making an extremely risky investment tantamount to gambling? And can Jewish organizations raise money through selling raffle tickets or even putting on these kind of poker games, etc.? So we're going to go through a few scenarios, and we're going to enter the Gemara. You can see the actual way that the Gemara is listed on the inside page of your leaflets. This is the Gemara in Sanhedrin, 24b, and you have the Gemara over there. And if you turn to page 3, we're going to do case 1. So we got a weekend gambler, and this is the case. Shari and Jason are planning their wedding. They're getting married. They're very excited, and they want to honor a lot of people. You know, when you get married, you have to honor many people around, right? You're going to honor. So they choose that they want to honor a guy called Murray, and Murray from Australia is a very special guy. But Shari's family's neighbor and lawyer, that's who he was, and they decided to invite him to be one of the witnesses validating the proceedings of their wedding ceremony. So they're looking through a guide to Jewish marriage, and they notice that to be an ed, to be a witness, isn't something as simple as they thought. They said that he needs to make sure that he's not related to them, obviously. An aid, the witness can't be related. And has to be an observant Jew when it comes to the laws of the Torah. Now, as they're talking, they find out that Murray is actually a gambler. And it says in the book that they're reading that a gambler cannot be a witness. Somebody who's a gambler can't be a witness. So they know that Murray is not a professional gambler, but he's a very good Jew. And he goes to all these different weekend gambling sessions, which you have on Sundays. Everybody gets together and they want to make sure, so they go up to the rabbi and they ask the rabbi, can Murray be a witness in our wedding? So the first thing we know is that a witness cannot be related to any of you and can't be related to the other witness. Can't be related to the Khatan, can't be related to the Khala. Has to be an observant Jew. And part of the observant Jew means can't be a gambler. And the question is, does that mean every gambler cannot be, what if I bet once in my life so I can't be a witness? Does it mean only a professional gambler, somebody that's playing? You're going to get married. You need to know who's going to be a witness, right? So they want Murray to be the witness. They come to the rabbi. So now let's open up the sources. So we're on page 3. We're going to open up the sources and we're going to see. So firstly, the Torah. The Torah tells us in Shemot, Lo tisa shema shav al tashet yadachem rasha liot ed chamas, which can be translated as, you shall not accept a false report, do not join hands with a wicked person to be a corrupt witness. So the Rambam, based on earlier sources in the oral Torah, he formulates this law in the Mishnah Torah and he explains what does this mean.
Doesn't it come from like the commandment, like as well, not to be a false witness?
Not to be a false witness. That's a false witness, correct? This is something. This is a bit more than being a false witness. This is not joining hands with a wicked person to be corrupt as a witness, and the Rambam will explain what does that mean. The wicked are unacceptable as witnesses according to scriptural law, as it states in Shemot. Do not join hands with a wicked person to be corrupt witness. So a rasha cannot be a witness. What is a rasha? Who's wicked? The oral tradition interprets this as meaning do not allow a wicked person to serve as a witness. Okay? Now, how is this wicked person defined by Jewish law? So the Shulchan Aruch says that it's a wicked person is someone who transgresses a Torah or rabbinic law. That kind of puzzles, that kind of puts a lot of people out, right? No, who's going to be able to be a witness? The Shulchan Aruch says if he transgresses a Torah or a rabbinic law, they can't be a witness. So let's ask. So we need to define now, is a gambler wicked in Jewish law? And if not, are there certain criteria, that might disqualify a gambler as a witness? Whether or not a gambler is disqualified as a witness or not, we're not addressing yet the question is, are you allowed to gamble? We're just focusing on, can a gambler be a witness? Right? So, let's look now at the next source. Source number 3, Mishnah Sanhedrin 24b says the following. Ve'elu hen ha'pesulim. The following people are invalid as witnesses. Hamsachek b'kubiyah, a gambler. Right? Literally a dice player. In the olden days they used to play dice. Yeah? So I think this is new from the casino in Italy that they're throwing dice. No. This is from the time of the Gemara. They used to throw Mesachek b'kubiyah. They used to throw dice. A person who throws dice is pasul la'edut, cannot give testimony. Who else can't give testimony? One who lends with interest. If a person lends money to another Jew with interest, they say, here, I'm giving you £100 now. You give it back to me, because I'm going to lose out in the bank. And they give me 120 when you finish. They're pasul, they can't be a witness. Pigeon races. They used to race the pigeons like you have with the horses. They used to race with the pigeons. Rav Yehuda said, that is the first rabbi. It's called the Tana Kama in the Mishnah. The first rabbi says, all these people are pasul. Comes Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is another rabbi. And he says, Matai, when is this true? In a case where they do not have any other profession. But if they have another profession, they are valid. So Rabbi Yehuda is defining. He's saying, hold on a second. Where you're not a consistent gambler, professional gambler, then you can be an aid. The Tana Kama, the first rabbi, is saying, no, you can't. And this requires, again, explanation. There is a debate whether Rabbi Yehuda is actually explaining the first rabbi or he's disagreeing with the first rabbi. And this is very important. You see, we have a general principle. When we have a Mishnah that tells you this is the law, then we normally paskin the halacha like this. If you have one rabbi against many rabbis, you go according to the rov, the majority. If the majority say it's not allowed, so it's not allowed. So the Mishnah, the majority, the first part of the Mishnah says, you're not allowed, they're not allowed, gamblers are not allowed. Rabbi Yehuda is he coming to define what the first part of the Mishnah is saying, or is he coming to argue with the first part of the Mishnah? So this is part of a debate. Let's now turn to source number 4. So we're building, is everyone following? We're building a case now over here. We're trying to define what is happening. Do you need to take into account, Rabbi Yehuda says, if they're professional gamblers, they cannot witness. They cannot be a witness at your wedding. If they're not professional gamblers, they can. Is he defining the Tanakama, i.e. the majority of the rabbis, is he defining them? Or is he arguing with them? If you say he's defining, then that's the halacha. The halacha will be like that. Only if a person is a professional gambler, then they can't be a witness. But if they gamble on Sundays and Wednesday, then they can. But if the halacha is that Rabbi Yehuda is arguing with the Tanakama, that means the Tanakama's got a blanket statement that all gamblers cannot be witnesses at your wedding. It's very interesting because we come up with a lot of people are going to weddings all the time. So we see source 4 says the following. Which gamblers are invalid? Mesachek bekubia maika avid. A gambler, a dice player, what did he do that causes the Mishnah to invalidate him as a witness? Can anyone tell me why would you expect a gambler to not be allowed to witness at your wedding?
Because he might be taking money. Like it could be like
corrupt.
Yeah, it might be not a real wedding, and he might be taking money for the signature. You know, I don't know, like a tie bride.
You can't trust him, right? You can't trust him if he gambles, but maybe he's a nice guy. I mean, he just likes to gamble. Can you? So Harriet's saying it's a part of trust. Why else wouldn't you expect to allow a gambler to be, as a witness in your wedding?
It's also some sort of addiction you have, so could go to an extent of a proper disease.
Okay, good. It's an addiction, but so what? So a person smokes. It's an addiction. Or is that? Do we say they can't be? Can they testify or not? I don't know. It's a good question.
Maybe they don't have faith in Hashem or something to do with parnasa.
Oh, excellent. So what you're saying is that he didn't have faith in Hashem. He doesn't have faith in God fully because he or she doesn't go out and work. They're just playing on the dice and they're going on luck. So how can they give testimony of a wedding which is to do with something which is going to last forever? Very good. Yeah. So we're going to see now here the source. There's two opinions, Rami Bar Chama and Rav Sheshes. Rami Bar Chama says he's invalid because his gambling winnings were attained through an asmachta transaction. Now, this is a very important word, asmachta. What asmachta means? When I play you in a game, we sit down. So I say to you, Rebecca, put down £5,000. Okay? I'll put down £5,000 and the winner will take everything. Will you play the game? It's a lot of money, right? Will you play the game? Only if you
win.
Only if you think you're going to win, right? Okay. Now you lose. Are you happy? No. You wouldn't have entered the game if you thought you were going to lose. You're only entering the game because you think you're going to win. So that's not really a valid game. That's not really a valid kinyan. There's nothing going on over here because we're going to discuss this more in depth, but on the outside, what Rami Bar Chama is saying, it's an asmachta. The loser handed him money as the result of a condition he did not expect to have to fulfill. I handing money as a result of a condition I didn't have to. I was expecting to win. Now you're forcing me to hand money. It's against my will. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, And an asmachta is not an effective transaction. Hence, he has attained someone else's money illegally and is considered a thief. Who would have thought of that, right? That's what we come to Monday nights to understand. The reason why he can't give testimony at your wedding is because he's a thief. Because a gambler is a thief. What do you mean he's a thief? According to Rami Bar Chama, he's a thief because the other guy who was playing against didn't want to give him his money. On the contrary, when they entered that agreement, the other guy was thinking, I'm going to win. He didn't win, so he had to give him his money. So he was forced to. So he's using stolen money, and he's a thief, and therefore a thief can't testify at wedding. Let's see the second opinion. Let's see the second opinion. We're gonna develop this idea. This is verse. We're just starting, right? Okay, Rav Sheshet. So that's Rami Bar Chama says asmachta. Asmachta means he's a thief because it wasn't willingly given. Rav Sheshet said this kind of thing is not considered an asmachta. Now, playing gambling is not an asmachta. He disagrees. Rather, gamblers are invalid as witnesses. Why? Because they are not involved in a productive occupation. Right? They're not involved in a productive occupation. Literally, settling the world. They're not involved in settling the world. We're going to come to define what does Rav Sheshet mean. So we have two opinions. Rami Bar Chama says the guy didn't really want to give his money. It's an asmachta, and an asmachta means that when I won the £10,000 from you, the 5,000 and my 5,000, when I won your £5,000, you didn't really want to give it to me, so I've stolen that money. How can I go and testify at your wedding? It's not. I'm using stolen money. And Rav Sheshet says nothing to do with stolen money. I disagree. This isn't a case of an asmachta, and he'll explain why. But what is it a case of? It's a case of the fact that he's not involved in a productive occupation. Let's define now what does that mean. So the next source 5, says that Rami Bar Chama and Rav Sheshet differ over how to interpret the Mishnah. Masav pligi, masav lo pligi. Rami Bar, the son of Chama, holds that the rabbis and Rabbi Yehuda argue. Remember we said there's a Mishnah. The rabbis say that all gamblers are forbidden to testify, and Rabbi Yehuda says no, it depends if he's got a profession. So Rami Bar Chama says they're arguing between each other, and the halacha therefore is like the rabbis. They say all gamblers are forbidden. But Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Sheshet says they're not arguing. Rabbi Yehuda is defining the rabbis, and the halacha is therefore that only a professional gambler is somebody that is not involved in occupation and a real occupation. He's a professional gambler. He's not getting his money from anywhere else, and that's the reason he can't testify. But if he's not an occupational gambler, a professional gambler, then it's not a problem. So let's see now. Let's go to source 6. What's behind Rav Sheshet's opinion? Why is a professional gambler invalid as a witness or a judge? Number 1. This is from Rashi. Gambling is his only profession, for since they are not involved in a productive worldly activities, they are not familiar with laws and business and are not afraid of transgression. Rashi is saying two things here. He's saying they don't understand the laws and the business, and therefore the information in his testimony is bound to be inaccurate. He doesn't understand about laws, about business, about all these things. So when he's going to testify, oh yes, she married him, how can you? He doesn't know. He doesn't understand what's going on in the world. He's a player. Or number 2, which you mentioned before, is he doesn't fear sin. He doesn't fear the repercussions of his actions. What's the big deal if I say, who cares? You know, the whole world is a lottery. The whole world is a game. Everything's a game. He doesn't fear sin. So how am I gonna take this person? Let's say there's a question on this marriage in 20 years' time, or in 2 years, or in 2 months, and I bring this witness and I say, yeah, he or she, he won't care because he doesn't fear sin. That's what Rashi says. The Meiri adds on to that, and that's in source 7. And the Meiri says that deception is a very big part of the lives of gamblers. Right? how does a gambler win his money? Depends on what he's gambling. Depends on what it is, right? If it's poker, so there's a lot of deception. This is I'm fooling you. It's a cheat. This is the wrong hand. You're deceiving people. Such a person that's a deceiver, how can he become a witness? Right? So we've had Rashi that says they don't understand in the business and they're not God-fearing, and the Meiri is saying that they know how to deceive. That's their profession. They're deceiving, right? And also, they're out of touch with normal people's financial struggles. So they're not going to care about the loss of money that their false testimony brings about. They don't understand about people's financial struggles. People are working hard to earn a living. And this guy is he's a professional. He's making money through gambling. He makes it easy. He presses a button. He does this. He's made $1 million. Kol hakavod. The other guy that needed to make $1 million, he needed to go through the apprenticeship, and then he needed to work his way. He needed to sweep the floor, and then he needed to make the coffees, and then he needed to work backwards and forwards, and then he or she came to where she came to. And this guy, he rolled some dice, and he made £1 million. Now he's coming to testify against, let's say, either testify in monetary matters or in court cases. And he doesn't really care. For him, you stand to lose $10 million. Big deal. For me, I don't care. What's $10 million? He doesn't understand how hard it was for you to gain that money. So he can't testify. That's what the Meiri said. So we had 4 different reasons of understanding what's behind why testimony is forbidden. 1 second. Let's come to the final reason, which is that of the Rambam. Maimonides. Maimonides in Mishnah Torah, the laws of Edut, of testimony, in 10.4 says only professional gamblers are invalid as witnesses. He paskins halacha, and he says only professional gamblers are invalid. And let's read why. So we're on page 5. Naomi, would you like to read the English? Page 5. Similarly, dice players
are disqualified if this is their only occupation, since such a person does not involve himself in ordinary business pursuits. It can be assumed that his livelihood is dependent on his gambling, which is forbidden as the dust of theft. The above applies not only to dice players, but also to all those who gamble with nut shells or pomegranate peels. Similarly, our sages did not disqualify only those who train pigeons, but also those who gamble with other animals, beasts, and fowl, saying the owner of the one that will outrace the other or vanquish the other will acquire the stakes put up by both. Similarly, other analogous types of gamblers are disqualified, provided they do not derive their livelihood from a source other than gambling. All of the above are disqualified according to rabbinic decree.
Okay, so the Rambam is saying, category, that the gambler is forbidden to testify because he's a thief. So we've had the idea that it is likely that his testimony will be false, i.e. he could lie often, or he deceives. Because he deceives often, he could be lying now, right? He doesn't understand the business. Rashi says he's not God-fearing, and he lives on money that is classified, rabbinically at least, as theft. Okay? The money that he's living off is theft. Why? Because it was based on an asmachta, and the guy didn't really want to give it, so he's now giving it up, and that's what he lives on, so therefore he cannot testify. How does the Shulchan Aruch rule? How do we rule in the code of law? It's identical to the Rambam, to what we just read out. That is the halacha. And therefore, in our case, they want to get married. Can Murray be a witness, yes or no? What did we say? What does it depend on?
If he's got a proper job.
Is he got a proper job? So was Mary a professional gambler? No. So can he testify for the...
Yes.
Yes. He can testify for the wedding, because we paskin that he is not a professional gambler. Okay, everyone following? Okay. If you're not following, let me know. So just to summarize what we've said so far. A gambler, the Mishnah says that a gambler cannot serve as a witness. There's a debate whether we mean Does it have to be a professional gambler or any kind of gambler? We go through the different reasons why gamblers cannot testify. We went through those reasons. And the halacha is a professional gambler cannot testify. Somebody else can testify. Does that mean that gambling is therefore permitted? No. We're just talking about testifying at the moment. Let's go on now to another case. Now we have a case number 2 on page 6. We've got a guy called Vadim and Dima, and they're playing chess for money. You ever wanted to, anyone here good at chess? Oh, what about tennis? Let's do tennis. Okay? So we've got a tennis game going on, and I bet you £100 that I could beat you at tennis. Okay? So we bet £100. Is that allowed or is that not allowed? 2 guys sitting down, they're playing chess. They go to a public park.
Depends if you're playing with him or not.
Oh, you see? They go to a public park, and we're sitting there, chess, and I put $100 on the £100, whatever, on the table. You put £100 on the table, and we say, let's play. Winner takes all. Is that allowed or is that not allowed?
Same scenario.
Same scenario, why?
Because he's not doing it out of free will, so to speak.
Good, okay, so he's not, so someone says it's the same scenario, we've got an asmachta still, he's not doing it out of free will. If I lose my money, I'm not going to be very happy, am I?
But it's not a professional thing.
But it's not a professional thing.
If we go back to the tennis and professional tennis player, that's
Okay,
their job.
good, professional tennis player might be different. Let's say they're not professionals. Is it okay to have that kind of bet?
Yes.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay, so up to now we're talking about testifying. Testifying could be different than actually doing the act. Okay, there's another guy's done it, and we want to know whether he can give testimony. Right, he's not a professional gambler, we want to know if he can do testimony. Now we're talking about the actual act. Can you, in lechatchila, can you go out and bet on these kind of things? So they're sitting there, they put down $100 each, and they want to know, and we want to know, what does the halacha say about this kind of a scenario? So we're on page 6. For this, we need to read the Mishnah, which can be found in source 9. Okay? Anyone want to read source 9 in the English?
Someone who paid back only a portion of the loan he owes and gave the loan document to a third party and said, if I do not give the complete amount between now and such date, give the lender his document, allowing the lender to collect the entire amount. If the appointed time came and the borrower still did not give the money, Rabbi Yossi says the third party should give the document back to the leader. Rabbi Yehuda says he should not give it over.
So we're talking about the following scenario. I borrowed £200. I borrowed £200 from Simi. I borrowed the £200 and then I paid back £100. We wrote out a document, £200 document, and I've got the document here. I owe you £200. It's written here. I gave you back £100 already. I then go and I say, here you go, Chen, take this £200 document, I owe you. If I don't pay Simi back within 2 weeks, you get basically to give it back to her and she can claim £200 from me. Why am I doing that? Because I'm saying basically I'm going to give you the money soon. Don't worry. I'm going to give you the money. I'm going to give you the £100 within 2 weeks. If not, I'll give you 200. That's what's basically happened. Is that valid or is that not valid? So again, I have a document that says it's a loan document. I've given it to the third party. I said if I do not give the complete amount between now and such a date, give the lender his document, allowing the lender to collect the entire amount again. I paid already half the amount. I need to pay another half the amount. Here, take this document, give it back to the lender, and the lender can take me to Bet Din and claim the full £200. How's that sound? It's a good deal, right? So Rav Yossi says Yiten, and Rabbi Yehuda says Lo Yiten. Rav Yossi said the third party should give the document back to the lender, and then the lender, Simi, can come back to me and say, okay, you owe me £200. I.e., Rav Yossi said this is valid, and Rabbi Yehuda says it's not valid. Does everyone follow what's going on over here? This is a very important scenario. So let's repeat it one last time. Simi lent me £200. I paid her back £100. But she's worried about the other £100. She's putting pressure. So I said, Simi, hold off for a week. I'll give you back the £100 next week. If I don't, here you go, Chen. This is the original £200 I owe you. That says that I owe you £200. You take it. If I don't give it in a week, so you take me to Beddin and you claim with this original document the full £200, as if I didn't pay you this £100 bichlal. Rabbi Yossi says the third party should give the document back to the lender. It works. Rabbi Yossi says it works. Rabbi Yehuda says it doesn't work. Rabbi Yossi says it works. Why? Because he holds that an asmachta kanya. An asmachta works. An asmachta over here, i.e., even though this is a case where I don't really want to give you £200, right? I don't want to give you £300 by the end of it. But Rabbi Yossi is saying an asmachta works. And Rabbi Yehuda is saying no, an asmachta doesn't work. So let's see what's going on over here. So let's turn the page. And we get an explanation from the Rashba. An asmachta. What is an asmachta? The Rishonim are going to explain why, according to Rabbi Yehuda, an asmachta is ineffective. It doesn't work. This is where, an asmachta is where one person promises his friend something on condition that he will do something in the future. Here, finishing paying off his loan with a certain time frame, he thinks to himself at the time he makes a condition that he will be able to keep his word when the time comes. I think that I will be able to have paid Simi back the £100 by the next week. I truly think that. And pay off the remainder of the loan. But when the time actually comes, due to circumstances beyond my control, it's an honest, beyond my control, I'm unable to keep my word. The question is as follows. I agreed to something, fully believing that I would be able to pay back. And then next week something happened. I was so busy, I didn't bring in the money. I was promised the £100. I knew it was coming in. I knew I had £100 in my safe. And then I got robbed or whatever, out of my control. I don't have the £100. The question is, can Simi go and say, okay, now you owe me £200 again, so I'll end up having to pay a 300, or not? Rabbi Yehuda says, then it doesn't work, right? He says it's ineffective. Why? Because I didn't fully agree to it. When I agreed on the basis that the world will continue in its normal way, and then I can give it back to you. But if something was out of my control that occurred, then you cannot use that shtar, that document in Beddin. So the halakha, the Gemara says, the halakha is like Rabbi Yehuda. So now we're going to go back and we're going to plant this in and we're going to come up with something very, very interesting. If we go to the next source. So according to Rabbi Rami Bar Chama, what is it about an asmachta that renders the transaction invalid? And how does it apply to gambling? Asmachta. This is a transaction where a person doesn't give another willingly. So, when they're playing chess, did each person rely on winning? Every person thought they were going to win, right? Yeah. So I thought I was going to win, so I put my £100, my £5,000 down. You thought you were going to win, you put your whatever it was down. And we both thought that we were going to win. Why then might gambling not be considered an asmachta? What is behind Rav Sheshet's opinion? Okay, so we understand Rav Rami Bar Chama, but we want to understand now Rav Sheshet. Rav Sheshet from the original Mishnah said it's not. Anything like that gambling is not considered an asmachta, and what is a genuine case of an asmachta is a situation where a sharecropper makes a condition that if he does not work the land, he will pay the owner with high quality property, or another example is what we just said. What's the difference between what we just said and the potential gambling is the following. Rami Bar Chama classifies this as an asmachta because even though the gambler he believes that he can win, he's relying on winning, and this transaction lacks internal consent. A gambler doesn't really internally concede. I don't really want to give you that $100. So Rami Bar Chama says it's invalid. The whole process is invalid. So if you sit there with somebody and you say $200, and they say, okay, give me, and they win, they take the $200, it's invalid. They can't keep the money. According to Rami Bar Chama, they can't keep the money. Rav Sheshet says no. If he didn't expect one of the two possibilities to happen at all, it's only classified as an asmachta if you didn't expect them to happen at all. So what happened in the original case that we were talking about, with the lending of the money, with the field, is 1 second. So Rav Sheshet says that a transaction is only classified as an asmachta if he didn't expect one of the two possibilities to happen at all. I didn't expect that I wouldn't have the money to pay back. It was, people came in and they stole from me. I was intending to give you everything. I didn't expect, it was completely out of my willpower. Then that is called an asmachta. Whereas, right, but here in gambling is still a valid transaction with necessary consent. So we have the two views over here. Rami Bar Chama is saying it's forbidden to gamble because it's an asmachta, and Rav Sheshet says it's not an asmachta because an asmachta is only when it's out of your control, and this isn't out of your control. So this is a big debate, and the halacha actually is, to bring it down to us, the halacha is like the Rambam, which paskins like Rami Bar Chama, stringently. So we wouldn't be able to have the $100 against the $100 because the person doesn't give inner consent. Now, he paskins that gambling is considered as theft. So this is very, very interesting because we come across this all the time. The Rama, there is a bit of a debate. And this is the debate between the Sephardim and the Ashkenazim. That's what we like to hear. Who would you think is going to be more stronger against gambling, the Sephardim or the Ashkenazim?
Sephardim.
Huh?
Sephardim.
Really? That's pretty racist, actually.
What can I say?
But you're right, Harriet. Okay, Sephardim. The Shulchan Aruch in Siman 372 says gambling is prohibited as rabbinic level theft. Okay, and that can be found as we look at source 16. You can see it. The sages prohibited certain things because they involve theft, and one who transgresses them is a rabbinic level thief, pigeon racers and dice players. So we're not allowed to race pigeons, we're not allowed to throw the dice because we are stealing. Then in source 17, the Rama, who is Moshe Israel, is representing the Ashkenazi minhag and halacha, says the following. Firstly, he says if you've got another profession, so it's okay, which we understand. If you've got another profession, it's okay to give testimony. But then he says, if you've got another profession, you're even allowed to play gambling, right? On the following conditions. What are the conditions? If we turn the page, we get the different conditions. And basically, the conditions are as follows. You place the money down at the outset. The money has to be in front of the people. You can't base it on, I'll give you £200. Oh, credit. It doesn't work like that. The money has to be down on the table. Some say the table has to be jointly owned. It's owned by both. It's on a place where it's owned by both people. And you can gamble only in a game where no skill is involved, where the outcome is not within his control. It's not within my control. It's completely out of my control. And before they begin, each would have to make an act of acquisition, agreeing to hand over the money if he loses. So what we learn is as follows. According to the Sephardim, to make this kind of a games is out of question. It's out of question to say, okay, I'll give you $100 let's put $100. You put $100. We play tennis, and then the winner takes the $200. We can't do that. We can't do that. Why? Because I'll be stealing your money when I win, right? Okay, obviously you'll win. Well, right? I'll be stealing your money when I win. You didn't want to really give me the $100, according to the Ashkenazim. So it depends. If you put it out there already, the $200 were there, and you played on a middle ground that was jointly owned by both of you, and you agreed from the outset, and it's not something which you're doing as a profession constantly, then yes, you can take the money. Are we clear? So we've covered now the idea of testifying for a wedding, and we've covered the idea of playing this chess game with this $200 in the middle and coming up with an app. Okay, what about slot machines? Slot machines, you want to put it in and make a lot of money. What do you reckon? Can we put in money in those slot machines?
Yeah.
Only once.
Huh?
Only one go.
Only one go. So Aaron says only one go. Why only one go? Because, why?
Because you shouldn't base it on probability or statistics.
Shouldn't base it on probability. Why? You should base it on emunah. Okay, that's what you're saying, right? You're putting one. If you're meant to win the money, then you're meant to win the money with one ticket or with 10 tickets. If that was what you were supposed to win the money, so have belief that you can do with what? Okay, that's an interesting idea, but that's not what we're discussing now. Let's see. Solomon Gabbai was able to get a low-cost plane ticket to Los Angeles with a 3-hour stopover at Las Vegas. He stops off at Las Vegas. He walks on inside the airport. He sees a slot machine, and he said, "I'll try my luck." And then he remembered that he was learning with the Chacham, with the rabbi, and he's not sure whether this is a good idea or not. So he picks up the phone and he asks the rabbi, "What should I be doing over here?" So the rabbi tells him that firstly, gambling is not just a question of halakha; it's also a question of ethics, right?
Ask your father.
Huh? And right? There are different reasons. So you think twice before gambling. Number two. Firstly, the guy was Sephardi, and as a Sephardi, we said before, the gambling is not really accepted at all. And even though the Ramah takes a lenient approach, but for Sephardim, that's not allowed. And what about the fact that slot machines are a pure game of chance? So pulling the handle involves no skill at all. You know, pull the handle. What you pull or I pull, it's no skill. So the Talmud that mentions two types of games. There was one game that was chicken, where there was the pigeons were running. Remember that? And then there was the throwing of the dice. Why did it have to mention both the throwing of the dice and the pigeons? Because with the throwing of the dice, there's some skill. With the pigeons, it's like, completely pot luck. So at the end of the day, the rabbi said that because he's Sephardi and everything, he shouldn't be playing on these kind of slot machines. By the way, just to let you know about the Ashkenazim, even the Ashkenazim, they have stringencies. The Mishnah Berurah says it's not such a good idea. The question is, if you're doing it with where it's a non-Jew or a Jew, that's also something to take into account. You can ask your local rabbi about that. What about, and the final thing we're going to finish off is lottery tickets. We'll buy lottery tickets, right? How can it be asur? Could it be asur? Could it be forbidden or not? If you're Sephardi, maybe it's forbidden? Yeah?
Sephardi.
If you're Sephardi, it's forbidden. According to Rav Ovadia, he writes in Choshen Mishpat in Yabia Omer, Solomon, you listening? מסקנה דדינה שהספרדים ועדות המזרח אסור להם להשתתף בקניין כרטיסי מפעל הפיס.
Like it says at the bottom.
He paskins it asur.
It's a way of
However, there is a big opposition to his opinion. And why is there a big opposition? Because with a lottery card, before charity, a lottery card, you're buying a ticket. And just like you buy a property, the ticket goes up in value. I buy a ticket for £2. The ticket goes up in value to £2 million because of the numbers. But I didn't It's not that I was gambling. I was buying a ticket, and the ticket went up. It's something, okay. So that's what he says. Moshe Steinbach in Tshuva Hagot says, here he acquires something that might bring a great profit and might not. This is like anyone that enters his own business venture or participates in one, in which case there is not worry of asmachta. In any case, it seems that buying a lottery ticket doesn't involve an asmachta, and this applies both to Ashkenazim and Sephardim. So he would say even Sephardim can buy lottery tickets. So finally, we say, what about when it comes to tzedakah? When it comes to tzedakah, if you do a raffle for a organization, maybe that's the same idea, maybe it's gambling, maybe it's not. So over here, the Shulchan Aruch rules for tzedakah, it is mutar. Don't forget, this whole idea of asmachta is a rabbinical decree, and so when it comes to tzedakah, they overrode this and they allowed this. So what we've learned today, I know it's Baruch Hashem, been a bit deep, but you've got these sources, and the idea is that before Shavuot we come back out with a little bit of a bit different style shiur, so that we actually get to the depth and understand how halacha is built. It's not something simple. It's not something, gambling is allowed, not allowed. There's a lot of different factors that are behind gambling. One thing we have to understand is that it's definitely not a good to be an occupation, that you yourself be a professional gambler. Why? Because you're gambling, many reasons we mentioned. You have to deceive. If it's poker, if it's something that you don't have to deceive, maybe okay, you're playing cards or 21 or whatever it is, that's not so much of deceiving. But there's an Indian of deceit, there's the idea of lying, there's the idea of trust, etc., and business, and understanding that all your money is just, it's a bubble rather than your actual occupation. Having said that, if a person wants to go from time to time and play, so we said there's the different opinions, and the idea that playing for a game, if it's an Ashkenazi, so he's got what to rely on given the different criteria that we mentioned. The money is out there in the beginning, and there's no bad feelings, whereas Sephardim will be much more stringent. Lottery tickets, we said, there's a machloket. Generally, we are lenient to buy lottery tickets. Everybody doesn't like it, and when it comes to tzedakah, raffles and things will be allowed. Just a few words about Shavuot. We're coming up to Shavuot. So tonight happens to be Rosh Chodesh Sivan. It's the first of the month of Sivan. Rosh Chodesh Sivan is when the Jews came to Har Sinai, and they came to the mountain of Sinai, and they encamped there all together. They were there together. Millions of Jews, they just left Egypt 45 whatever days it was earlier, and they were by the mountain, men, women and children, and they were getting ready to receive the Torah. To receive the Torah, we have to make ourselves into a vessel, right? If you want to pour a glass of water, you have to have a glass. If I pour water, it can go all over the place. It can go all over the place. We have to create a vessel, and that's what these days of the Omer have been. We're supposed to be creating vessels. We have 6 days left till we receive the Torah. Part of tonight, part of coming to learn, something a bit more complicated, is to make yourself into a vessel, and to come up and to understand everything we do over the next few days is about receiving. According to the way that we create ourselves is the way that we are going to have our own Kabbalat Torah. Which is why, unfortunately, Shavuot is probably the least celebrated festival of the 3 big festivals in Judaism. We have Sukkot, we have Pesach. Pesach is, wow, it's a hit, that's up there. Sukkot is next. I've got to make a sukkah, okay, I'll come to visit you. And maybe I'll shake a lulav and etrog. We have a big sukkah in Canary Wharf. Baruch Hashem, a lot of people that might not have even shook the lulav and etrog are coming. It's beautiful. But Shavuot is not just about the cheesecake. It's about the receiving of Torah. It's the Torah, it's Torah. But the Torah is our life. The Torah is our instruction book. The Torah is everything that, God created the world, He created the Torah. So Shavuot is the receiving of Torah. So Hashem says, here you go, it's like you've got all this gold and silver, and you can come into the room and you can take as much gold and silver out as you want. The only thing is you forgot to bring a bag. You didn't bring your suitcase. You didn't bring a basket. What did you bring? So you brought you got your hands. So you start sticking, and you don't even have any. Where are you going to put it? You bring some bags, then you can come and you can take out. That is Shavuot. So we're creating the bags right now to put it in. We're creating the glass to pour the water in. That's what it's about in the next 6 days. So we have that in mind for creating whether it's Ben Adam Nachavero, being kind, adding chesed, gvura, whether it's gvura, chesed means to give, and gvura means to be in control, being in control of ourselves. So it's not just giving constantly, it's being in control. Knowing when not to give is also a blessing. Knowing when not to give into Avera is also a blessing. We're creating that kind of personality so that when we get to Shavuot, we will receive the Torah. Rav Eliashiv, and we'll finish with this, says that if a person is ill, a person needs a refuah shelema, a person needs to be healed, he said the best time is Shavuot. Why? Because Shavuot, we're going to be reading the Sefer Torah, and we're going to read about how the Jews were at Har Sinai. And when they were at Har Sinai, when the Torah was given, everybody was healed. Everybody had the refuah shelema. Everybody was healed. So that's the best time to pray for somebody who needs a refuah shelema is at that time. Why? Because we are reenacting the giving of the Torah. You have to feel it. If you don't feel it, just come to the Chag. We float into the Chag. There's cheesecake. We eat it. What's the Chag about? I don't know. Forget it. That's the end of the Chag. 2 days later, we stuffed ourselves. It was very nice. Kol hakavod. Now moving on to the summer. If we don't feel it, so we haven't lived it. So we have to feel it. So how far should I feel it? You should feel it as if you're standing at Har Sinai and everybody gets healed. That's how you have to feel Shavuot. How do I feel it? I just walk in? No, we've got to prepare ourselves. So these 6 days, B'ezrat Hashem, we prepare ourselves, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should make us into the best kind of vessels to receive the Torah, and all those that need refuah shelema should get refuah shelema. Amen.
Amen.